Hey everyone, I know it's been a long time since I've actually made like a video of me talking about different subjects, but I've been incredibly busy these last couple weeks. It's academic advising season, so that means everyone that I am working with is just constantly coming to me, emailing me, and I've been working at my other jobs as well, and so it's just been really busy. But anyways, I have not forgotten about you. Thank you very much everybody who has commented on my 700 subscribers video and all like the big news. There's actually a lot more news coming your way very shortly. Once everything gets finalized and settled, I'll let you know more about that. But I'm really excited today to talk to you about something that I'm just starting to work on. This is I don't exactly know the name of the segment yet. So today I want to talk about something special. This is my top 5, they're not really my top 5, but they are like my favorite movie moments that I've had growing up and in theater experiences. So these are things that I remember in the theater when I'm watching these movies and the emotional connection I've had with each of these films. Some of them are not so great, as you'll probably see with one of my first picks, but some of them are amazing, and a lot of these films resonated with me as I was watching the film in the theater, sitting by myself or with somebody else, and really just getting kind of encapsulated into the film and the story itself. So let's start off with my first film. So my first film is Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2. Now this movie is not that great, and now, however, I do recall watching this movie in 2002 when it came out. I actually watched it opening night. I believe I was 10 years old when this movie came out, and so obviously I was really engrossed in the Star Wars as a 10-year-old. I really loved the original trilogy. I actually even enjoyed The Phantom Menace when it came out. Obviously I was a 10-year-old, so I couldn't see all the flaws in it. But Attack of the Clones was an exciting time. I remember going into this movie really excited to see this movie because there was going to be more lightsaber battles. There's going to be some droid and stormtroopers. I saw trailers for this. I was just excited, and we're going to see Yoda fight. I remember just really being engrossed in the arena scene where Mace Windu comes up to Newt Gunray and Count Dooku and all of them, and is like, "Oh, hey, guess what's going on? We're here to stop this, and we're on to you." And so you can see all these Jedi just with different lightsabers just pop up throughout, the different arena. And as a kid, I was just so excited to see all of that, and it was just like, whoa. And I just remember everybody in the theater just cheering and being so excited about it all. And especially when Anakin and Obi-Wan fought Count Dooku, then we got Yoda, who just came hobbling in there, and the crowd went insane when that happened. I just remember Yoda just doing flips. Obviously the CGI is not that great and does not hold up terribly well today, but I just remember that moment in the theater and just being a part of just gigantic mass of just fans and nerds and just all those people who love Star Wars, and just kind of seizing that moment as it was happening in real time. So anyway, that was my first film memory that I have in theaters, was Attack of the Clones in 2002. Not 1 year later, to a much better film, was Return of the King. Now, I actually watched this at the IMAX and with my uncle and my dad, my mom, and I think my aunt. But my uncle has always really loved fantasy, and we used to play Magic the Gathering a long time ago, back in the day, quite a bit, and he just has always been into Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and all these things, and a lot of this stuff has permeated with my interests. I love Pan's Labyrinth, I love Lord of the Rings, I love fantasy as well. But I just remember being next to my uncle, especially during the scene. So this is obviously Return of the King is a long-ass movie, and I remember watching it in IMAX in this glorious, huge, gigantic theater. So it was such an experience. It was an amazing experience. I remember when Theoden was giving a speech before he charged all of the orcs at Minas Tirith. This is right before the Oliphants came, right before that. And I just remember looking across at my uncle. Obviously I was 11 years old at the time, so I really didn't know much about going on. I just thought it was a freaking cool fantasy fight of just all these different things happening. And I just remember seeing my uncle, and my uncle was just like so engrossed into this film. And I could tell he was just like, all the things that he remembered as a kid, I could tell were just rushing back to him. And it was just like, he was so into it, and I was like, it was just so heartbreaking to watch that happen. It was actually one of my first emotional moments I remember watching in the theater. And then, not moments later, obviously, you know, 30 minutes down the road, when the Witch King kills Theoden, you know, in a grisly manner, I look at my uncle, and he's just bawling. He's bawling his eyes out, and I'm like, whoa, like, you can cry in a movie? It's like, I didn't know this, and I had no idea the emotional connection that Theoden, especially in just, I mean, as a trilogy, obviously I'm older now, I can see just the background of what happened to Theoden and why he had some reservations about helping Gondor when they weren't helping him, and you know, just being, you know, loyal and kind of being a shepherd of, you know, the place that they live in Middle-earth, and just really being that steward and helping a lot of these, you know, people out. And his death and his just, you know, familial tragedy really just struck a chord with my uncle. And it just struck a chord with me, and I still remember this moment, obviously. So that was my second movie memory in theaters that I remember very, very vividly, and I loved it. So moving on from Return of the King, we're actually jumping 11 years to 2014 when I saw Interstellar. Now this movie I remember watching with my best friend Ben and my friend Curtis, and both of them were my roommates at the time, and we just recently had bought an apartment together, and we had really not really done much as a group of roommates yet because we've been so busy. We were doing school, we were all in college, and we were all just doing a lot of different things. And I just remember being so happy and excited to see this movie because obviously we really loved the Dark Knight trilogy. We liked Christopher Nolan at the time. I was definitely a different person at that moment of my life. But I remember going into this at like 10 o'clock at night. We watched it in the IMAX. And good God, this movie, you know, is long. It's like 3 hours long. And I just remember being so engrossed into the film that afterwards, just, I cried multiple times in the film. Just, you know, at the time, at the age, 2014, I was 22 years old. So what I mean by that is actually Ben, Curtis, and I, we all just stayed up afterwards. You know, we got out of the movie around 1 o'clock or whatever, and we couldn't go to bed till like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were just so excited to talk about all of the different things. Obviously, it wasn't all scientifically accurate, or, you know, like what are some of the themes of the film, the score, the performances, some of the silly things that were in the movie, and some of the really amazing human things in the film. And we just kept talking about it nonstop, and it was just one of those things I just remember about being one of my favorite roommate memories ever, was just those late night discussions about that particular film really just stuck with us. And that's why Interstellar is probably one of my favorite Christopher Nolan films, especially from a score standpoint. And I just remember being emotionally connected to a lot of the things going on in the film. So I just really loved that movie moment. I just remember that theater experience, just being totally engrossed into this thing with two of my best friends, and I absolutely loved it. So let's actually move from there to a more recent film that actually came out a couple years ago in 2017, A Ghost Story. Now this film, I remember going to the theater by myself, and I watched it in one of my small independent theaters here in town that only has like 2 theaters, and so not very much seating involved, but I remember watching it in an afternoon. I just had the time off, and I was like, I gotta watch this movie. I liked A24's output so far, so I really was excited to see this movie. I liked Casey Affleck. So I watched it movie, and it hit me. And when I say it hit me, now this movie is very patient and very calculating. I have that picture of A Ghost Story off, you can't see it off screen, but it's right over there. I just remember this movie hitting me so hard in the stomach, especially the moment, obviously, where Rooney Mara is eating the pie, and it's just, it takes freaking 5 minutes. It's like, it sits there, and she's eating this entire pie. It's like it's just standing still at this moment in time. And this entire thing is about David Lowery, the director, getting over as father, and this meditation on grief really struck me, and it just hit me. And the reason it hit me so hard, I remember, is because only a couple weeks prior to that, I actually heard the news that my record store that I was working at for the last 4 years was gonna close down. And I actually had kind of a memory of that place as a home. And that place really was just one of my favorite places to be. I loved all the people I worked with. I loved the music. I loved the customers. There's a lot of good times and a lot of bad times as well at that place. But I just remember that it hitting me in the stomach and just not knowing how to, grieve over this place. And A Ghost Story gave me that meditation. I just remember that movie just being that catharsis that I needed, that reassurance. Now, it's a sad, melancholic kind of catharsis, but it really just struck with me, and that's the reason why it was my favorite movie of that year. And I just absolutely loved it. I've talked about it on this channel before, years and years ago. But that movie experience was just so enveloping, and the person I was, and kind of just the reflection of a lot of the things that were going on at the time for me. So it resonated with me. Alright, the last film I want to talk about was actually a movie that came out last year. It was my favorite movie of last year. A very similar type of vein as Ghost Story. It was First Reformed. Paul Schrader has directed this masterpiece with Ethan Hawke at the helm, and I remember being in the theater by myself once again. Actually, I think I may have watched it with a friend. I can't remember. I was so engrossed into the film. Now, I've always had an experience with religion on a lot of different levels. I've been a Christian growing up, but it was non-denominational, and a lot of these things kind of permeated throughout my entire kind of young adult lifestyle. I was hardcore atheist for a little bit. I was an agnostic, more or less. Just my entire kind of way of thinking was just enveloped in kind of just a lot of the things going on in my life at the time. Obviously, we grow up. We learn different things. We develop our personal relationship with a God or a deity or whatever, if that exists or not, you know. But I remember First Reformed really striking a chord with me because of Ethan Hawke's struggles with his own faith, and it hit me really, really hard because there's a meditation aspect of it. So you know, Paul Schrader has those long takes, that internal dialogue, that internal struggle, strife with being, you know, a protector of the earth, you know, like what's actually happening in reality, versus what's happening in the spiritual side of an individual. And I just thought that connection was just so powerful, and I just remember watching it in the theaters and like just having all these thoughts cross my mind as I'm watching it, but it's being so engrossed into this film. So these have just been 5 theater experiences that I've had that have just really kind of shaped a lot of my viewing experiences, all just ranging from different things, obviously from the silly Attack of the Clones all the way to First Reformed. I'm going to have many more movie theater experiences down the road, and I'm super excited to have them. I actually love going to the theater myself. Luckily, I luck out and I normally don't have to be around people who talk, which is really great. But anyway, I want to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think of my movie moments? Did you have any moments? I want to hear your 5 just remarkable theater experiences that you've had, things that you remember growing up. I just want to know your thoughts down below and where you were at the time. I mean, you don't have to write an essay, but just, you know, just tell me a little bit about yourself. I really want to know a little bit more. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching this little video. I have a lot of things planned, and they're coming up, and I'm really excited. So thank you for checking this video out. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.